June 30th will no longer be remembered as just another day on the NFL calendar. Today marks a historic trade that just occurred between the Miami Dolphins and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Dolphins are receiving their former safety in Minkah Fitzpatrick, who has had multiple All-Pro appearances for the Steelers, being a leader of their defense. And they also receive a late round pick. In return, they give two players that were disgruntled with the team in Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith, who were all pros as well at their respective positions. And this is one of the most historic trades that have gone down at this point in the season, with the amount of return each team is receiving. Many are surprised to see that the Steelers are willing to part ways with Minkah Fitzpatrick, despite not letting his contract expire and the amount he's done for this defense over the last few seasons. Now, the Dolphins, it's a little bit easier on their side of things. Jalen Ramsey wanted out. Jonnu Smith wanted a contract extension or to be traded. The Dolphins wound up filling a position of need at safety. Let's take a look at how both sides are impacted by this move and why it could benefit both teams here in 2025. Both teams have had very different off seasons, it feels like. The Miami Dolphins have gone with more of a retooling versus the Pittsburgh Steelers going all in on some veteran players. As for the Dolphins, we've seen them, Teron Armstead retire, Jalen Ramsey be on the outs, Jonnu Smith be on the outs. All of these veteran players on this team are gone. We've seen in the past them lose players like Christian Wilkins. We know that Tyreek Hill has been reported in trade rumors, but it looks like he's staying put for now. The Miami Dolphins are also in a tough spot with the cap. Now, this has forced them to, really invest draft-wise and not necessarily bring in key free agents and let players like Javon Holland walk in free agency. The Dolphins, I mentioned in a previous video, are in one of the worst spots in the NFL. They have two on a massive contract who is always getting hurt. They have a ton of question marks on the offensive line, a ton of question marks on the defense in general, and it's going to cause a lot of chaos over the next few years unless they get younger. Now, this move does not necessarily suggest that with Minkah Fitzpatrick coming at the safety position, but it's an upgrade at the position nonetheless as they try to compete in 2025. Now, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, completely different boat. The Steelers have been stuck in basically good mediocrity for quite some time now, making the playoffs, having winning seasons, but not winning any games in the playoffs. And their quarterback situation has been a revolving door for years now. With Aaron Rodgers, it'll be a revolving door in 2026, but they're looking at 2025 with a one-year rental of Rodgers, it looks like, before he retires. Alongside Aaron Rodgers, they brought in DK Metcalf via trade, and they also drafted Caleb Johnson, letting George Pickens get traded and then letting Najee Harris walk in free agency. Those moves have signified a change in explosiveness and output for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they bring in a veteran like Darius Slay that I really like as well, while also adding some other players that I think will mix well with already a top-heavy group like TJ Watt there, and that defense that always seems to perform. Now you add players like Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. This roster is full of veterans and potentially ready to compete. So let's break down the film and show you guys why each of these three players could potentially help or hurt these teams going forward. Let's start with Minkah Fitzpatrick. Prime Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of the best safeties of the last decade. You're going to see him up here, and this is footage from 2022 about his quick instinctual plays at safety where he's able to basically blanket any sort of zone around him, and that's what made him so good, basically being a ball hawk of the football. Watch this right here. You're going to have a seam route. Minkah's going to read it so fast the quarterback has no chance, and Minkah makes an easy big-time play right here. The crazy part about this play, too, is this seam is open at this point. The guy is right there, but Minkah Fitzpatrick is so quick to break on the ball that the guy has no shot to make a play, and the quarterback just leads him too far upfield. This is what we saw from Minkah Fitzpatrick in his prime, and he shows flashes of it, but it's not necessarily the same as it once was 2 seasons ago. Unfortunately, in 2025, Minkah in the top of the field right here is not the same player as he once was, basically making everything a blanket over the top and nothing getting over his head. At this point, he does not have the ability to consistently provide that production. You're going to watch on this play, you have a cover 2 right here and a cover 2 right here. That means 2 high safeties have the top of the field. And let me play this through for you guys. You guys are going to see Minkah have a complete lapse of what he's doing and not get to the spot quick. And you would never see prime Minkah Fitzpatrick mess up a coverage, let alone not be this instinctive to understand what is going on here when you have it flat. And then you obviously have another guy going up. It makes it a really easy read for Herbert here, while Minkah Fitzpatrick is nowhere to be found on this play where he needs to squeeze that as fast as possible. And that happened way too often for Pittsburgh in 2025. A part of Minkah's game that still continues to get better is his ability to play run defense. And you can see on this play, he flies downhill, is able to make a play at the line of scrimmage. And that's something he was not very good at his early part of his career. Minkah has turned into an over-the-top safety to a two-way safety that plays very good against both the pass and the run. Like I mentioned, the pass has regressed a little bit, but if he's able to make plays like this in the run game, he's more versatile than he used to be. And he obviously sees this cutback right here on Bijan Robinson and makes a big-time play. And he's a physical safety at this point, and he is willing to go make these plays at the line of scrimmage, which is something we did not see from early on Minkah Fitzpatrick, which is something that still makes him a very solid safety in the NFL. Throughout his time in Miami, Ramsey's been asked to play a lot more zone coverage than man coverage, and I think that's what he's best at throughout his career. You're going to see Ramsey here at the top of his screen, obviously talk to his teammate a little bit. We'll jump a little bit forward, but what he does really well is he's incredibly anticipating quarterbacks and what they do, making good plays in zone coverage. He's not a guy that presses someone and completely locks him out of a game. He works well within schemes, and in Pittsburgh, a team that runs a lot of zone coverage, he's able to make good breaks in the ball just like this and make plays that ultimately change games still. No, he's not fast anymore. No, he's not as explosive and can lock down somebody, but Jalen Ramsey's still a playmaker and is really, really good in zone coverage. Similar play right here where Ramsey's just going to be able to work through a post at the top of your screen here and just make a play on the ball. And like I said, Ramsey's very, very good at understanding what an offense is trying to do in situations and take advantage of quarterback mistakes just like this one, making a big-time play on the football. And that's the skill that you really can't teach, is instincts and ability to go get the football. And Jalen Ramsey still has that at the cornerback position, making him a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. An underrated part of Jalen Ramsey's game is his ability to step up and play big against the run. You're going to see him here at the top of your screen take on DK Metcalf, who is now his teammate and is a lot bigger than him, ultimately beating him up at the line of scrimmage because Metcalf doesn't make a good block, and Ramsey is able to finish through this play and make a really solid tackle. You'll see on Jalen Ramsey's tape, and even more so in his prime, that he is incredibly good against the run. He can play well on the outside, and he sets a solid edge that ultimately leads to a lot of good run plays for this defense, and Jalen Ramsey does have very good run defense skills. A play against the run I wanted to show you guys on the ground game is Ramsey just being physical. I mean, he's got a lineman that he's going to take on. 60 is no fullback. That's a straight lineman. He beats him at the line of scrimmage, causing a big-time play for a loss on a, outside zone play here where he's just expected to have outside contain, force it in. Ramsey's not scared of that contact at his older age, takes on this blocker with the outside shoulder exactly like he's supposed to, undercuts it, and makes a big-time play for a loss in the ground game as well. The next addition, Jonnu Smith, is a big-time player, and he had a breakout season last year, and I think what he did really well in Miami is plays like this where, yes, Mike McDaniel did a great job of scheming him open on intermediate, over-the-middle type routes, but Jonnu's very good at understanding where he needs to settle down in zone coverage. You see on a play like this, two linebackers right here in between him, works to enough depth and sits right between that point to where Quay Walker can't tip this ball, and Jonnu Smith finds a hole right in between the safety. He was really good at that in Miami, and despite him being schemed open a lot in the red zone and on earlier downs, Jonnu finds a way to find a soft spot in zones. I think Aaron Rodgers will greatly appreciate that, as well as having Pat Freiermuth there as a bigger target as well. Despite being solid on intermediate and underneath routes, Jonnu Smith also brings a little bit of boom in terms of yards after the catch, ability to force missed tackles right here, just like this play, and make big-time gains. He's a big target who's speedy and fast, and that's a tough combination for linebackers to match up with over the middle of the field and for cornerbacks to tackle with on the outside. Jonnu has that explosive ability to take a drag like this for 33 yards and make big-time plays like this for the Steelers, and that's a little bit different of a dimension than Pat Freiermuth can provide at the tight end position. They're almost like two different tight ends. As I mentioned before, these moves signal different directions both of these franchises are going. The Dolphins are trying as hard as they can to compete with a roster that's really top heavy and doesn't necessarily have the depth to compete in a really, really loaded AFC. Meanwhile, the Pittsburgh Steelers, we have seen load up on talent on both sides of the ball. Yes, they've sacrificed one of their best players of the last decade in Minkah Fitzpatrick, but ultimately added two really good veterans in Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. And I think it's fascinating to see how this Pittsburgh Steelers team is going to work in 2025. I think Arthur Smith is going to have a lot of weapons at his disposal, which wasn't necessarily the case for Pittsburgh heading into last year. I think Calvin Austin's a name to watch as well that could take a step forward alongside DK Metcalf. And then Caleb Johnson, obviously, I think is a younger version of Najee Harris that could be more explosive. And then Aaron Rodgers, we all know, is a first ballot Hall of Famer and should provide a little bit of an upgrade over what the Steelers have had at that quarterback position. This might put them in a spot to make the playoffs this year and win a playoff game, which would be a big step up for the Steelers going forward. As far as the Dolphins go, I can't see this Minkah move necessarily moving the needle so much for me to say, hey, the Dolphins are for sure making the playoffs. I can't go that far. The holes at left tackle and the holes on this defense are so big right now. It has me concerned. I know they're playing an easier schedule, which should help them, and Tua always takes advantage of that. But I am very concerned about this roster depth for the Miami Dolphins, and I think it will come back to bite them this year. What do you guys think, though? Who won this trade? Obviously, big-time Blockbuster here. So make sure you go hit that follow button and subscribe button for more Blitz Sports Media content throughout this off-season period as we fill you guys in with all the news ahead of 2025. I'll catch you guys next time.